You probably know Craig from your time at Darlington. Was he there?
Craig Little. Lids. Yeah. So Lids was in the first team, and I was like a YTS, and obviously we'll go about it. Obviously, in the interview and stuff. But like just a leader of a bloke with the first team, and then obviously his path was naturally to go into coaching. With his background and how he was leading people and players, and obviously he's gone to Middlesbrough and done some great things at the academy there, and the players they brought through there. So, just a very blokey bloke, but but very well respected at the club. I mean, we went through turmoil. I remember that when the club went to administration. And Lids was still there, like training up every day, training Maiden Castle, like his warm ups, like. I've never known a warm up like it. Like it would literally do about 4 laps of the whole big grass cricket pitch outside Maiden Castle, and you're just like, you're 16, 17-year-old young'uns, and you're like, fucking hell, like this is somewhat, but this is what it takes to be a pro, like doing it every single day. So no, he was top bloke as well. Like he was great with me when I was coaching at Darlington as well and doing all that. So,
did you work under Little when you were coaching at Darlington?
Yeah, so when the development centre started out, and they were just looking for a goalkeeping coach to come in and just deliver the basics of goalkeeping, really. Very similar to what we were doing in the early days at my place. Yeah. And then, because they knew us. Obviously, I was a former player, and I could just come in and just, again, they were young and some grassroots. Yeah. So it was just about putting the basics of goalkeeping into these kids, and I was able to deliver that. And then parents were coming approaching me going, like, do you do one-to-one sessions? And I was just like, light bulb. Yes, I can. Yeah. And then that was it. That's when mine was born. Yeah. And that was where it went from, really.
So I think that's a perfect segue to start the podcast. Yeah. Welcome everyone to the TheFootballZone podcast. Our third guest on, Dan, DMGK. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I think that's a perfect, like, it's how, I was actually speaking to my dad before this, how small the world is. That we had Craig on, and then you've worked with Craig as well. Yeah. It's mental how small the world genuinely is. Yeah. Yeah. And then obviously you've...
I know, right. The time at your goalkeeping academy was just amazing. Obviously when I first messaged her about coming on the podcast, just going through old photos and see ourselves together, and the rise of your academy and everything was amazing to watch.
No, it's first and foremost, thanks very much for having us on, lads. And it's a lovely topic to come and talk about. You know, the world of football. We're sitting here tonight. It's a very universal conversation, and you guys talk about it every single day of your lives, and something I'm very passionate about myself. But the goalkeeping, Lewis, like you were there as a young lad, probably I'd say 9-10-year-old maybe. Yeah, I think 20. We started 2011. That was when we started doing that. So that's nearly 12 years ago now. Yeah. So we're all grown up and a bit fatter and a bit taller and a bit older and what have you. But no, it's goalkeeping is something that's been a big part of my life, and it's great to come tonight and have a conversation about it.
When you first started playing, was it always goalkeeping? When you first started out?
It never always was, for me personally. So when I was a young'un, this was probably like 95, 96 era. I was watching the Kevin Keegan years of Newcastle United and the Shearers and the Aspreas and the Ferdinands, and all I ever wanted to be was a centre forward. See the Shearers' hand going up and run at the Gallagher end, and that's what you dream of as a kid.
Doesn't every lad from the northeast though?
Oh, 100%.
She was such an iconic person.
Unbelievable.
To be up front for Newcastle.
Yeah, absolutely. It was just the dream. But then, you're on the school play yard and you're trying to emulate that, and you know in yourself that you haven't quite got it. Yeah. And then you're on the bench for the school team, and you're just like, I really want to play, but I'm just not quite there. Yeah. And then it takes a real sort of hard home hitting message from your old man. And it's about 8, 9, 10-year-old, and what do you want to do when you grow up, son? Well, I want to be a footballer, Dad. Well, you better get and go because you're crap. And that was it. And that kind of like, right, brutal bit of parenting. And I just started putting the gloves on.
Yeah. What was the first game as a goalkeeper like? Was it school team or was it outside?
I think it was more of a school team. Again, I got the message off Dad, and then there was still the inner centre forward in us that really believed I could still play. So I think I was year 6 and I went into year 7, and then it was like Shotton Hall School. The trials come up, and again didn't quite make the cut for the A team as such. So even the B team, and then all my mates are going, "You can play in goal? Like, what are you doing?" Yeah. Like I said, I know I can, but I still want to play up front. So puts the gloves on, St. Bede's. Never forget, I actually remember that game. And it was a 1-1 draw, and I was in nets, and I was just being the goalkeeper that I naturally was. And everyone was like, and then I was in the A team for the next match to go in goal.
Did it just come out naturally?
And I think that's when that's when I realised then, right, I need to stop trying to pretend I'm a centre forward and focus on goalkeeping.
Yeah.
And then once I fully invested in that, that's where I felt, right, bang, this is where I need to channel my strengths.
Yeah. And where did you sort of go from that? You know, those first early days as a goalkeeper. Then was it outside football clubs?
So I think I started playing in goal for the school, and then it was Shotton Boys on a Sunday at the old rec ground. And like that little stadium was just like, I used to look at that and think like that was amazing as a kid. Like at this little, you know, a couple of little stands, and you like got people in and stuff. It looked amazing. And then I was actually second choice at Shotton Boys again. So I was B team at school and second choice at Shotton Boys. One of my mates who I still speak to now, he was a Sunderland Academy goalkeeper at the time. So he would play if he wasn't playing for Sunderland, and if he wasn't playing, I'd be in nets. But majority of the weekends he was away playing. So by default, I got the shirt. And then all of a sudden you're playing well, and parents are commenting, and your teammates, and you get that confidence just naturally going through your veins. And then you just grow into the position. And then come the end of the season, we had quite a strong 11. And majority of that 11 were scouted into the Hartlepools, Darlingtons of the area, Middlesbrough, Sunderland. So 6 of our squad were drafted into Darlington. And I was actually recommended by a parent, so I wasn't even scouted.
Really?
They were looking for a keeper. Do you know somebody? And then, there's a lad at Shotton Boys, Dan. So I came along, and we all got a 6-week trial. Some lads there was extended after the 6 weeks, wanted to see a bit more time. And I was awarded, out of the 6 of us in the end, they kept one on, and it was the goalkeeper who got recommended.
Wow.
So
big shout out to that
one that never
parent.
actually got scouted was the one that goes through.
Yeah. So that's where my journey started, and I think once I parked up trying to be Shearer and wanted to be more like Shea Given, that's where I had my sort of mental breakthrough and went, that's where I need to go. And
was Shea Given your goalkeeping idol?
Given was the idol.
I remember having like the Newcastle book, and I remember seeing Shea Given. Used to flick through the pages all the time. Shea Given, Shearer, Ginola, and all that. Just seeing those through the books, and I used to see them all the time. I used to just read the book and just look at the photos of them as well.
Yeah,
there was like a photo of like Shea Given in goal, all the flares going off in the background. I was just like, God, it must be unreal to play at like that level of football. At the time, I'm not even gonna lie, I was a half Liverpool, half Newcastle supporter.
Ooh.
I know exactly.
Well, I'm a Liverpool supporter, so it's always nice hearing that.
Because I watched Stevie G when I first thinking it, and I was like, okay, no, I'll stick to Newcastle. But it's just like
we better mind that gap between us and Liverpool at the moment.
It's not mentioned that. Just stick this out for a little bit. It's a rough patch.
No, I'm loving that.
I'm not. But did you ever? So I used to do this as a goalkeeper growing up. Whenever I used to go to a match, the goalkeepers warm ups, I used to be stood there. I think you told me to do that. Back in the academy days, was just stand and watch the goalkeepers warm up. Yeah. And I always remember when we had the 2012 Olympics, and I went to St James's Park to watch games, and I watched Spain play, and David De Gea was goalkeeper for Spain's Olympic team. And I was just stood behind the goal just watching him warm up. Did you do stuff like that as well?
I was absolutely fascinated by it. And I think if we rewind back to 99, 2000 era, there was no YouTube, there was no online videos or content to watch training sessions like you can nowadays. So like I had to go, I mean, my dad would take us to the games, and that was a ticket for him. And, you know, I'm sure he got loads of enjoyment off it. Of course he did. But all I wanted to be was in the ground at 2:00 and like see Given come out that tunnel, warming up, stretching, and, you know, doing his jogging. I'd watch every single thing he was doing, and that would have to stay in my memory, and I would just replicate that on a Sunday in my training sessions, because again there was no videos to go back and watch that through. So I was just fully tuned in. That was I would say my education really as a kid, because at school I wasn't interested. All I wanted to do was be a goalkeeper, and I pretty much replicated my game after watching Given in goal.
So you say you're more of like a visual learner and then applied it into a kinesthetic way.
Even at 35 now, and in every single aspect of my life, like get me in front of a computer and attention span, like it's only so much. But I'm a very visual type of person. Coaching, sessions that we've done in the past and watching other coaches and watching goalkeepers and doing their work, for me, it sticks in the mind.
Yeah.
And I always have that visual and try and replicate that in physical activity as well. So things like that. I think when you're watching something, if it's a great goal or a great save or a great session, like that moment will always stick with you.
Yeah.
But given it was the whole game of starting position and stance in the goal and how he'd catch a ball and diving technique for a save, where to catch, where to parry, watching the game from 50 yards down the pitch. So I'll be watching the goalkeepers for 60, 70 minutes of a match, as well as watching the other end of the pitch when the balls are going in the net. So like watching goalkeeping for me, even though I'm not in the game day to day now, is still a very, massively interesting thing for me, and watching what they're doing.
Did you so obviously you would be watching the goalkeepers all the time. Did you feel like you learnt a lot more watching Shay Given play than you would say getting coached during training sessions by coaches who you were working under?
Again, rewinding back to that era, because there was not a lot of goalkeeping coaching at the time. So nowadays it's very readily available. Like myself and other coaches in the area, you can get it fairly quickly. But back then we didn't even have a goalkeeping coach at the academy. So I was really on a training session. It would be, I would say 80% of it would be games with the outfield players, and then there'd be a shooting drill at the end, or crossing and finishing, whatever it might be. So a lot of my game time was from the visual of watching Given in his training sessions or at St James's Park.
Was it your typical balls straight down the throat, catch, warm up before matches?
Pretty much. Yeah. So if we had a Sunday match and it was Darlington at the academy versus a York City, we'd have 20 minutes before a match, there'd be a few balls thrown at you, a couple of volleys, maybe a couple of crosses thrown in, and then referee blows the whistle and off we go.
Yeah.
And again, then you go back to training on a Tuesday, Thursday night, and then there was zero goalkeeping training.
Yeah.
So really, I was kind of doing my own self-training as such, and visual watching the sessions from the guys at the top level in the Premier League, obviously the likes of Given.
Yeah.
But I would also study the other goalkeepers at the other end. So I used to love watching likes of Schmeichel, of course, and Seaman, and the goalkeepers of that era who were really good. Tim Flowers was another one I thought was fantastic for Blackburn Rovers.
Yeah.
So you would have limited training at your sort of level when you were growing up yourself and growing up the ranks. Is that something that might have inspired you to get into the sort of goalkeeper coaching, to actually allow players to develop and give them the coaching that maybe you lacked when you were there as a player?
100%. I just, I'm so passionate and, driven by goalkeeping, because again, watching those guys when I was a kid, it just captured my imagination, and it will do probably the rest of my life, to be honest with you. But for me to go back into the game after being released and going through that pain of the game taken away from you in a professional level, to get into coaching and go and lead the next generation of kids with what I've learned from some of the best coaches I've worked with, like Sir Simon Smith and even Andy Collitz, Jim Montgomery, Mark Williams was a big influence in my career as well. As a schoolboy, I would say from 14s and upwards. But to go back and coach and deliver to kids aspiring to be young goalkeepers as well, for me that was very, very rewarding, to deliver what I've learned from some of the names that I mentioned.
Just to jump back on those days, 14 going into academies and stuff like that, what was that process like of, feel like, you're pushing towards, that professionalism that you wanted?
Mm-hmm. I think for me personally, I just knew what I wanted to achieve from a very young age, and I was just chasing a dream. Again, watching Given, and you just get that inspiration, and you're like, yeah, that's what I want to be. I don't mind admitting this, but my mum used to take Dad out on a Wednesday night, Friday night to Peterlee Catholic Club from where we lived. Be like 10-minute drive, like each way. And while Mum was out, I would be blasting Local Hero at the top of the volume on my CD player from my bedroom, and I imagine in my head I was walking out to St James's Park as a goalkeeper, because that's how driven I was. I wanted to make it. So going back to that age at 11, 12-year-old, that was the goal. That was all that was in my head. So with or without goalkeeping training, I knew there wasn't a lot at the time, but I wanted to do everything in my power and capabilities by studying and viewing and watching to get myself to the next level. And if you keep that visual in your mind and replicate that on the pitch, at the time I felt like I did that. And that gave me the opportunity to develop as a keeper. Then when we got to about under 13s, 14s level, we had a full-time coach, say full-time, but we had every session I went to on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday night, there was a goalkeeping coach at the club.
Yeah.
And I felt like I had the attributes in my locker for a goalkeeping coach to come in and take me to the next level.
Mm-hmm. And did they help you do that? Was that a lot easier transition having someone specifically there to train you rather than, you having to jump in with the outfield players?
Massive. I think we got a good, I would say, per session, maybe 45 minutes a session with a goalkeeping coach. So we'd probably do 2 nights a week during the week. And the real first dedicated goalkeeping coach that we got was a guy called Mark Williams.
Mm-hmm.
He came up from down south from Colchester, and Mark put the time and energy into me. And I think coming from the coaching background, if you know you've got a goalkeeper that's willing to put the time, the effort in, the parents will be there, getting them to the sessions, then that's for a coach, that's half of the job.
Yeah.
The dedication, and then after that, I was just fully tuned in and wanting to develop. And Mark brought my game on, I would say, in a year. I probably developed, I would say, a year ahead of schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Because by the time I was 15, I was playing for the under-18s team at Darlington. I was still this height of 5'9",
mm-hmm.
But my technical ability, when I look back and reflect on it, it really did fast forward. When I was about 14, 15-year-old.
Looking at the smaller frame of goalkeepers now, like you've got Lloris as a smaller frame, Ramsdale now, you see, is a lot smaller frame. Do you think that athleticism is coming more into the game now, other than just brute height? Because
I think it's that maybe it's the genetics of the modern era footballer. That there's not a tiny itty bit of fat on any of the players that are out there on the pitches now. And looking at the goalkeepers, like all the strips they're wearing, they're like skin tight, like they're really sort of tattooed onto them, but they're just so athletic. And you see like the Pickfords and like Nick Pope's probably, I would say at the moment, probably the bulkiest. If you see him with his short sleeve top on, like he's a tank in the goal, but he's there's 10 clean sheets in a row. I mean, that's a statistic that I don't recall ever hearing in the goalkeeping world over the last 10, 15 years. So I think it's a very highly technical position now. I think obviously required with the ball at their feet to play out from the back. Obviously your Ramsdales, your Pickfords, which is world class. I think Gareth Southgate's got a lot of trust in Pickford in that department at the moment. So
what is your takes on the modern goalkeeper compared to what a goalkeeper used to be? Just keep the ball out of the back and that's it, compared to nowadays.
I think it's a great question, Lewis. Now I think the easy answer nowadays is to say they can play out from the back and they've got the ball from their feet. But I think look where Arsenal are in the league. And look where Newcastle are in the league at this moment in time. Let's talk at the top level here. Ramsdale and Pope aren't the best with the ball at their feet. But one thing they're good at is keeping the ball out the net.
Yeah.
Just mentioned before, Pope's kept 10 in a row clean sheets. He's not fantastic with the ball down there, but my goodness, he can keep the ball out the net.
You saw it against Southampton the other day. That's
unbelievable. But he's a giant of a man. 1v1 situation with Adams. We could be 1-0 down. Bang, blocks it. The save at Palace, we were having a bit of a hairy moment in the second half. Like, wow, flick over the bar. It was an unbelievable save. I was out my seat. So again, I think the modern day goalkeeper just needs to stay focused on basics. And do you know what? Keep the ball out the net. And the bonus for me, if you can, distribute, play out right back to left back, come back in, transition inside out. That is a bonus. But for me, it's about keeping the ball out the net and keeping it simple.
Would you say there's now too much pressure on a goalkeeper to play out from the back? You see David De Gea and Lloris. David De Gea's made so many mistakes this season with the ball at his feet. Would you say there's far too much pressure now on goalkeepers to play out? I
think you're right. You got a great point there, and I think the goalkeepers are only as good as the players in front of them. Jordan Pickford's England's number one, but right now he's in the team that's bottom of the league.
Yeah.
Does Jordan Pickford want to play out to his right backs and his left backs at the moment with a team that's rock bottom on confidence? Absolutely no chance. So Jordan's got one of the best left foots I've ever seen. He distributes a ball like nobody else, but he's only going to be as good as what's in front of him, because right now he's thinking, goal kick, let's just get it down the pitch and keep it away from our goal, because they're a team under pressure, bottom of the league, new managers coming in today by the sounds of it. But again, the pressure on the players to play out from the back, but it's all directed by the manager and the head coach. So Newcastle were very much a pressing, forward-thinking team, but I don't recall Pope playing out from the back.
No.
Very often this season. So we're
Burnley.
playing to our strengths as a team, but you've got to take that pressure off your goalkeeper just because he's got a fantastic strike and a ping of a ball. I think you've got to think about the men in front of you as well. Have they got that in their locker to deliver that type of play?
That's the thing what goalkeepers used to be. What used to make you a great goalkeeper was you've had nothing to do for 80, 90 minutes. Shot comes, you pull off a worldie. That was a sign of, the best goalkeepers. Now it's how good you are with the ball at your feet, how you can come and collect a ball, can you play under pressure, all this sort of stuff. There's so much more to it, and like you say, there is a lot of pressure on goalkeepers these days.
I think it was like that situation with Edison the other week when they conceded against Tottenham. I think Pep wants them to play where it drags their team in so far to the point where they're dragging them 6 yards away from their own goal.
Yeah.
And Edison to play a pass at the final second.
Yeah.
And you see the mistakes.
Yeah.
That's where they come from because they aren't natural at being outfield.
And it's a great point again because, again, let's look at the quality of the players that's in front of an Edison or an Alisson or the teams at the top. If you take Edison out of that Man City team and put him into an Everton team at the moment, will he be playing the balls out that he will be at the moment? So, again, the goalkeepers are under pressure, but they're only as good as the men in front of them with the quality. So I think that there's a bit of a myth and a bit of a stigma around playing out from the back and, he's not very good with his feet or he can't do that. But again, it's the players, he's only as good as what's in front of him.
Yeah. But you've got a point there. It was like the De Gea went Aaron Wan-Bissaka against Arsenal. Like it was said by the commentators, probably not a good way to get out from the back. Playing from De Gea, who notoriously isn't that great with his feet, but then to Wan-Bissaka, who's quite indecisive on the ball as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's a good case with Newcastle in a minute as well, with obviously you don't really play out from the back, but would Pope want to ping the ball out to Dan Burn at left back to control it in a tight area under pressure? Probably not, because that isn't Dan Burn's strength to his game, is it?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, made a good point on pressure of goalkeepers. But obviously, with goalkeepers and errors, did you see the Manchester derby the other week?
I did.
And the VAR decision? What's your opinions on that, Bruno
the offside?
Fernandes? Yeah. What do you think? Goal count or not? Is he in the line for Edison or?
Such a hairy one for me.
Yeah.
When I first naturally saw it, and I think 99% of the nation, when they first saw it, say offside straight away. I think the rule book needs to be changed, in my opinion. I think because you're going to have centre forwards now just standing on the 18-yard line and waiting for a pass to come through.
Yeah.
So it was, I think, you talk about the gentlemanly sportsmanship, or it was, and it's a massive moment in the match as well because City were pretty much coasting all the way to victory there, and then in 2 minutes the game's changed, and it's 75,000 at Old Trafford. It's a derby match, and goal goes up, and then that's it. The chemistry changes in the arena. So for me, it's offside. That's my opinion, and I think Edison. Man City felt definitely done over there, hugely done over.
Yeah.
But it was it was one of those Scooby-Doo moments, like what's going on here?
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody had a clue at the time, but it was could be a game-changing decision.
Yeah. You had two interesting points on that though.
Yeah, well, no, it was three. For me, it was Rashford's clearly in the way of man and ball, but also Edison as a goalkeeper, his eyes are solely focused on Rashford and where the ball is. He's not looking at Fernandes because he thinks Rashford's going to strike the ball, because Rashford does a little shimmy, little fake shot, and then all of a sudden Fernandes has come in and scored.
Yeah.
So it clearly impedes the goalkeeper in my eyes.
Yeah. When you put it that way, Lewis, and I'm putting myself in Edison's shoes there, because he'll be watching the ball, watching the player, and naturally you set yourself for a shot because you think. You're waiting for a flag, you're waiting for a whistle, you don't know what. So as a keeper, you freeze.
Yeah.
Whether you come out and spread or you throw yourself at feet, but you're still in the moment.
Yeah.
Which you're tuned into because you think it's going to be a shot. So if I'm the keeper there, I'm naturally, and what Edison did, you can see what he done with his body position. He's set and ready for a shot.
Yeah.
So for me, it's offside from a goalkeeper's perspective. If I'm Edison there, and not just Man City, but you're screaming for offside.
Yeah.
So
because like you see, he has come down and closed the angle down on Rashford, and then all of a sudden Bruno Fernandes is coming from this direction, and he's
not looking at that at all.
And he's not looking at that.
Edison's waiting for Rashford to take the chance to see if he's offside or not. You saw like the Shelvey one against Sheffield United 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Shelvey just was in his own half, took the shot anyway. The goalkeeper didn't do anything because he thought he was offside. But Edison's waiting for that shot to come from Rashford to test the VAR, whether or not he's offside or not.
That's it. And a lot of people have had a lot of opinions on it because we've posted videos about it, and a lot. I think it's Man United fans who are saying it's goals. Everybody else knows it's offside.
Yeah,
and it should have been.
Well, there was a few Manchester United fans who were like, "Look, I'm happy that it stood, but realistically, it was offside."
Yeah.
And it was another mistake by VAR this season, which they've had. What's your opinions on VAR? What do we think?
What a great question.
This is the rest of the podcast now.
I'm black and white, and we've been done over by
thank the Lord
3-4 this season. But
thank
again,
yeah, no, I've had him in my ear about it all season as well.
Well, there's Wednesday night, so that's never handball from Joe Linton.
Yeah.
You know, and Shea Given was nailed on at half time. He said the referee from the angle behind the goal, looking at Joe Linton's stomach. 30 seconds, run over the screen, have a look, and you'll make your decision from that angle there. So the whole VAR thing, it has, I think it's 75% good for the game. I think they've gotten a lot of decisions right, but there's still a grey area with it for me. And the rule book about the offside at Old Trafford, the handball for Joe Linton the other night, obviously they were saying Adam Armstrong's the other night, obviously second half, when it rolls off his hand and goes into the net. Yes, lucky for us, VAR, it's no goal.
To me, that one was debatable.
But again, it was, another debatable incident.
I think that's the issue with VAR is the actual rule book is what do you go off? Yeah. And then we've said it before, so we had a championship referee on the podcast, and we've said it before is who is actually running VAR, because obviously it's former referees, but we've said like a player's perspective would be very nice in the VAR room, not to have the majority say, just have something like handballs in the box, your arms down here like this, it strikes you on the hand, penalty is to say. What are you supposed to do with your body?
Jeff said in that moment, it's just like he would never want a former player inside of the VAR room.
Yeah.
You're just taking the words out of my mouth there. I think as a player, and we've all played the game, I think everybody would love the thought of a former player, like with the kit on, with the whistle, running around the pitch and letting it be more of a free-flowing game of football. But again, the absolutely not a cat and house chance that the Referees Association will allow a former player to sit inside that box wherever it is.
The PGMOL, there's no chance there.
Imagine a Carragher or a Neville or Ferdinand or someone in there.
There'd be Roy Keane be just sitting there saying, "Do me a favour," and like
he hasn't broken his leg completely, so therefore it's the only yellow card.
That's his job.
That's a good impression. I was going to say that's a good impersonation.
What is your opinion on Roy Keane then? Because personally, I think what he said last year, I don't know if you've seen the clip of him. It was post Man U Arsenal last year. Well, it might be in the year before. It was COVID. He was saying that Arsenal were doing a bad thing by learning by the mistakes, by building out from the back. Yes, they were doing bad passes, but it was learning that foundation, the fundamentals from playing out from the back. And he was criticising them, saying like, they've only won 1-0 against us here. They got beat off Leicester last week, but now look at them this season. They're playing out from the back, fluid football.
Trust the process.
It's like he's so set in his ways. What's your opinion on Roy Keane then?
I think there's two things for me. I think one, he's box office. For Sky.
Yeah.
I think like when I'm at home cooking on an evening, when I've caught up on TalkSport's another good outlet for Simon Jordan, Jim White, and I think there's some cracking content on there because Jordan's pretty brutal, straight to the point. But like it is like you look at the clicks that they get, like he is absolute box office for some of the stuff he comes out with. I think some of it is maybe slightly pre-staged now. With Sky, they'll just get him on at the break and right, Roy, have a say about this, or the director's on saying right, Roy, get something in about that. But the other half of it is I think he's just a bit of a grumpy former player. And just loves to pick people out where he can and where he can get away with it because he's a bit of a voice now on ITV and Sky. So, he does have some really good points as well at the same time. Obviously. But I just think there's a bit of a grumpy ex-player in there. And the game's changed. And is there an element of I was getting $100,000 a week and then there's somebody in my position getting $300,000 a week now? There could be a bit element of that as well.
Jealousy,
maybe a little bit of jealousy. You just don't know.
Yeah,
I was going to say because it's just like it's so bizarre how he's constantly slating these players, and same with Graham Souness. Personally, I don't understand how he's in a job. Like personally,
I agree.
Saying how like constantly slating Paul Pogba and stuff like that, but other players on the pitch were getting away with it. Like punditry nowadays, I feel like there's too many ex-players that are a bit too old. The players like Michael Richards, Gary Neville, what's his name, Carragher. I think they're all a lot better for the game because they're a lot more neutral. Yeah. You got Neville on the Man U game. Yes, like his reaction may say something different, I think, but what he's saying on the microphone, I feel like, is a lot more neutral.
Well, pundits and presenters are all just ex-players these days.
And I think they need to remember that as well sometimes. I think they can get drawn away a little bit with the clicks and, the comments that they'll see, no doubt, on videos and Instagram posts, TikTok, whatever it might be. But they also need to pull themselves back sometimes and just, you know what, I made them mistakes.
Yeah.
I've been a player. I've done stupid red cards. I've done silly tackles. I've said silly things. So, I think they need to give players a little bit of a break sometimes as well.
A little bit of slack.
I like the recognition from Jamie Carragher when he scored 2 own goals against, was it Tottenham that he scored 2 own goals?
Yeah, he's done that before.
He's done it against Man United as well.
Oh, God.
He's a cracking player, honestly. He really was a cracking player.
He was.
Yeah. He just had those lapses, which all players do, and like you say...
Lissandro Martinez of the...
Sometimes they just need to cut them a little bit of slack. Players these days. But jump back onto your playing career, time at Darlington. What was that like? In the academy, approaching first team.
Yeah, there was. For me personally, I was just driven, just every single training session, every single match, and when you're in that frame of mind, you just want to make it. I don't think anything bothers you around you. Like I think I'm a glass half full type of bloke.
Yeah.
And like if we were playing on a bad pitch on a Sunday or the training session was crap and I was just like, do you know what? I'm not bothered because I'm here. I've been given an opportunity. When the club gave me that contract when I was 12 in my first year, we actually had a bit of a tough first year. So we were it was our first year as a centre of excellence at the time. It wasn't academy. And we were getting a lot of thumpings really in the first year as a team. And because we were still... bringing players in and out of the team, like from schoolboy clubs and, getting eyes on and seeing who's going to make it and who's not. So we didn't have a settled team in that first year. But the tonic to that first year was at the end of the season. And the first team got to Wembley in the playoff final against Peterborough United. So they beat Hartlepool in the semi-final over 2 legs. Craig Little was in the side and they had some really good players. Dave Hodgson was the manager. And first team got to Wembley. And before the match... we were under 13s that season. They wanted the under 13s to play a match against Peterborough on the pitch at Wembley.
Nice.
So it was about a May Day bank holiday, I think it was, and we got a letter through the post from the school. From the club. And I think I'd been golfing somewhere that weekend, and I came home and opened the letter up, and it was a letter from the club saying. We're going to play on the pitch at Wembley, and it was like, what?
Was that the most surreal moment of your career then?
Oh, that was I've had some brilliant moments in football, and that's definitely up there with one of them. So I was 12-year-old at the time, nearly 13. It was May time, so we were on the pitch. It was like a 15-minute each way match, like box to box. There was nearly 30,000 in at Wembley, Peterborough and Darlington, so it was the old Wembley at the time.
Yeah.
But I do remember, that sticks with me the majority of the day, but we were in the tunnel. And the tunnel at the time, the old Wembley was behind the goal. And used to come out. And we stood in the tunnel waiting to come out, and the noise, and it was just like, you just taking it all in as a kid. But this is what I've worked for. And that was the nucleus for me to go on and make it.
Yeah.
But I remember my legs were literally banging together like jelly, like in the tunnel. Like I was a 12-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And you get on the pitch, it was absolutely teeming down with rain. And we played the match. But there was a guy commentating during the match, like on the mic.
Over the tunnel?
Like over the telecom in the stadium. And I kind of wanted him to just shut up because it was a bit distracting because like you're trying to shout to your teammates and obviously, but they couldn't hear a thing. Like, and when you step on a pitch like that, if you think about playing in front of 75,000 or 50,000, what the players get out and what the lads actually hear on the pitch is probably not a lot.
Yeah.
Really. So that's one thing that stuck with us in my mind. But we actually lost the game 1-0 on the day. And I was gutted because the box was like a 5-a-side.
Yeah.
So the D of the 18-yard box was but the keepers couldn't come out the box.
Oh. Right.
And there was like a ball played through over the top. And it got held up in the water, the ball stops. And if I came out the box, I would have given a penalty.
Yeah.
And then Peterborough lad comes run through 1v1, bang, smashed it into the net. And they won the game 1-0, but like we went up the old steps of the old Wembley and got like a runners-up medal. And,
oh, nice.
Like all my family was there, and everybody's parents were there and stuff like that. But it was, even though we lost, it was still like an amazing experience as a kid. And again, that was my drive to like, right, I've got a taste of what it's like to play, at Wembley Stadium. I mean, not many people can say that. But I wanted to go on and make it. So we finished that summer, and then I was done a second year there, got another contract for 15s, and 16s, played every single match for 2 years, never got injured. I was captain for the 15s, 16s team.
Was that natural leadership you've always had?
I think you might have guessed it, Lewis. You've been in my sessions, but I've got a bit of a voice.
Yeah.
And I'm quite loud when I want to be. So I think, because not at that age, I think we're just all young lads, and I think some lads just come out and they're naturally. I think it was when I watched the goalkeepers in my time, Givens and Schmeichel's on the pitch, and you just like, goalkeepers like that. And they're talking all the time.
Especially Schmeichel.
And yeah, absolutely. I remember seeing him with St James's for Villa when he was at the end of his career, but you could hear him from level 7 down on the pitch. Like, it was just ridiculous, his voice. But like, my dad would always tell us, like, you need to hear you, need to be talking and shouting. And so like, I always just, even if you're talking crap, like, as long as you can be heard and your presence is there.
Yeah.
And I think that's what probably got me the captaincy, I think, if I think back. Because I remember I had a review at the end of one season and they said, like, you've got a presence on the pitch, and I didn't understand what it meant at 14. But like, what do you think that means? I was like, because they could hear me with my voice talking and communicating. So got the captaincy, and I felt 10 feet tall, going out on the pitch as a captain at 15 years old. Like, you're sticking your band on and you're going out and doing the captain's toss and all that. But like, I was leading that team, and then when we were 15, 16s, we actually had quite a solid, good team. And a lot of the players that got released at the end of under 16s, it was probably hard for them because they were all good standard of player. But out of the contacts that got awarded at the end of under 16s, there was 5 of us out of that squad that got kept on. So it was, the contacts were getting awarded in January time, and they made me wait till April. I think because my height at the time, this was my height at 5 when I was 15. And I stopped growing. They were hoping I was going to have another spurt.
Yeah.
Technical ability was there. They were really happy with where I was as a goalkeeper. But again, they threw us into 3 under 18s matches at the end of that season, and came through them, flying colours, played well, and they made their decision and gave us the contract as a YTS.
Yeah. What was that feeling like when you got that YTS contract?
I think, of course, it was like really rewarding. I mean, absolutely, you work hard and you put all the time in the games and the sessions, and your parents come and, you know, take you all over the country. And but no, obviously you get awarded the contract, and all the time and hours you put in, your parents all over the country, and you know, you hope you've done them proud as well. Certainly felt like I've done myself proud, but it was an amazing feeling. And I think the one thing, and when I've reflected on in looking back, certainly in the last, I would say 5-6 years, I didn't prepare myself mentally going into a full-time setup with the first team, with the reserve team, because you are in every single day, you're getting the kit out, you're a YTS, you're 16-year-old, you're like you're starting from the bottom, really. And that was day one. And like, was there a part of me that thought I'd made it? I'd probably say there was, to a certain degree. But the hard work should have started then. So I've reflected there, but there was also at the time at the club, there was a coach there that wasn't exactly the nicest person in the world.
Right.
Put it this way, we started in July and he was relieved of his duties at the end of August. There had been some like bullying going on with the youth team squad, and there was some mornings I didn't really want to be training, just with some of the atmosphere that was going on there. But there was a change with the coaching staff. I didn't have a very good pre-season. My confidence was not very good. Something off the back of that as well. So that was a transitional period, going from being a schoolboy where your parents take you to sessions and it's very well safeguarded, but when you go into the man's world and you get dropped off at training every day, and it's like, this is a different level.
Was that a massive psychological knock then?
Yeah, it was, definitely. And in the first couple of months in particular, but then I had my light bulb moment and realised like how I got here, and you know, the work I'd put in, and I knew I was a good goalkeeper and I need to find myself again. And I remember one of the coaches sat me down, and I felt like really my confidence wasn't great, and I was waiting to make a mistake. And it was something that always actually stuck with me, a conversation. And he said, if you're going to win a match knowing you're going to make a mistake, it's just waiting to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to change my mindset. And it wasn't here, it wasn't technical ability, it was all in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that moment onwards, had a good game, and then boof, you go again. So I think the biggest part of the goalkeeping position, when you mastered your technical, it's all in here. The amount of goalkeepers I've seen down the years have crumbled when they get onto a pitch and they can't deal with a mistake, or a bit of banter from behind the goal where they're getting some crap.
Yeah.
I've seen it happen, and it's a big part of the game, the psychological side.
Do you think that's something that's improved with level of coaching as we've gone through the years? Is like all clubs these years have sports psychologists within the system. Does that massively? Do you think that massively will help goalkeepers these days compared to bad experience you've had in the past?
I think so, without a doubt, and I think the sports psychology thing has evolved and it's grown and grown massively. The amount of top level clubs now, they've all got them departments, and I think the game has changed. I think emotionally and compassion as well, like showing players, and a lot of players now, and I think it's well documented on podcasts we've listened to. Some of the top athletes. It's about sticking an arm around some players rather than giving them an actual bollocking and a kick when they don't need it. And certainly goalkeepers, I'm the first one to walk into a dressing room and played, good standard football after, playing professionally at Northern League. And if I've made a mistake, I walk into the boys, lads, half-time, lads, that was my fault. And Dan, you've saved us a million times.
Yeah.
So, one thing, certainly your teammates, they'll help you as well, get you through that when a goalkeeper makes a mistake, because it's a very lonely position when that mistake happens.
Yeah, there's always been that thing is if you're going to goalkeeper, you're going to have to be a nut job sort of thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you are the goalkeeper and there's no one else.
There's definitely an element of lunacy in there to go and do it. But you've also got to have an element of calm and composure. You've got to be very, very, because if too wild and a bit of a nutter, then that mistake will happen very, very quickly, whether it's a bad back ball out or if you're to roll out or whatever you're going to do. So you've got to have that just
level head.
Just level yourself in. Some of the best to watch, like Edison, Allison, Popes, watch them. They're just on the pitch. They're just so calm and collected. But that's another strong mentality thing as well.
I think that's what we'd love to get on the podcast. Is we want ex-players on to talk about their experiences and say how much of the game is actually on the mental side. Because you see somebody, I think we've lost some incredible players. I mean, Ilicic, you've seen in the Serie A.
Yeah, Atlanta,
he's Dele Alli.
Yeah, that's a massive one. And a massive one right now is Jadon Sancho as well.
Yeah,
completely out of the Man U side.
This is really actually. Do you know what? You've touched on that because I was on a train last February and I was going to Edinburgh to watch the rugby, and it was me and my pals having a couple of drinks, and there was a guy sat on his own silently next to us, and we were talking about the Greenwood situation. And we were chatting about it, me and my mates, and he just entered the conversation and he said, I'm a football agent.
Right.
And he said, you'll be surprised at the amount of players that are struggling with their mental health in the Premier League. And he met one of his clients was actually Jesse Lingard.
Wow. To be fair, that's probably one of the biggest ones. That documentary, I haven't watched it yet, but I'd love to watch it.
Yeah, he did a podcast last week. Yeah, if you
listened to it last weekend.
Yeah, it's incredible.
I saw snippets of that. Genuinely.
Yeah, it's nice to see someone open up completely about bad experiences because he's been through a lot.
And I think there's an issue with clubs in their media pages now. They don't want their players going out and speaking to these podcasts and say the struggles where they're at currently or struggles that they've had in the past, because that'll shine a bad light on their club.
We had that when we got Craig on, because Craig's currently head academy manager at Middlesbrough. Is when he was on his way down to do the podcast with us, he rang their
media
team, and they're like, you shouldn't be doing that. Kind of worrying just in case he says anything. But
they literally said, oh, by the way, I'm going on a podcast. And he said, and the media team was like, oh, you should have told us that because we don't want you on the podcast. And then Craig was like, oh, well, I'm going anyway. And I hung up the phone.
Wow.
And then came on the podcast. But that's something that we want to shine a light on.
Yeah.
Because I feel like, with we've said before, all these on Sky and stuff like that, and all these pundits aren't shining a light on the other side of the game. There's two sides. There's, yes, you can perform, but you might have the ability, but is it in your head?
I think you see things as human beings. We're all, you say what you see. We've seen Marcus Rashford struggle he is in the form of his life at the moment, but my goodness, he was polar opposite a year ago, year and a half ago.
Last season,
head was elsewhere, looking after taking on politicians and the government. Amazing things that he's done, but his football performance completely suffered terribly.
And I think that's probably he's taken himself away from that situation. Someone's probably had a conversation and said, you can affect all this once you're at the end of your career, where yes, have your career now, focus on your career, look at where you're at now. When you're at the end of your career, go and do whatever you want. Go have that sort of impact. Because the bigger your career is, probably the more impact you'll be able to have in the future.
Yeah. I think it was for us when we started seeing sports psychology in the light it is was at uni.
Yeah.
When we were at university, because we obviously had to do a full module, and this is about sports psychology, and it was a massive thing for us, and we started looking at sport in the game a completely different way.
It fascinates me, guys, and I think because I've watched my path and what happened to me, and I had moments of struggle. I think I had anxiety, if I'm honest with you, when I was 16, and I'm not a big believer in the A word. Because it's about, pull your pants up and go be a big boy. But when I reflect back, like I was retching on a morning before training, I didn't want to be there with the certain coach that was involved. When I was 16, but I want to go in as a coach and reflect on what affected me and how I can help a goalkeeper when I spot something. Are you all right? Do you want to come and have a chat? Do you want to? So I can understand the emotions that people go through when they put them gloves on, and if they're struggling after a bad game, or they just want to sit down and have a chat with us for 10 minutes. So, I'm always eyes on, looking for somebody who might be struggling
I feel like
from the psychological side of the game.
And you're probably the person that is drastically needed in a goalkeeping environment. If you were in a Sunderland or a Newcastle right now, you've got there's a massive pressure on these Newcastle Academy players now with the amount of money that's coming in to excel and be the next sort of generation coming through. Like, just someone to go, are you all right? Like, are you handling the pressure all right? Is there anything that you'd want to have a conversation with? Just take them to the side. And be that sort of reassurance instead of just letting this pressure pile on.
Well, obviously you had your time at Newcastle Academy as well.
I did.
As a coach.
Yeah, it was obviously the DMGK was established for 3 years, and you hope you're doing a good job and you're delivering the right message and the ethos, and the numbers are growing and getting bigger, and then we're putting kids into Hartlepool and into Sunderland, and for me it was really rewarding. And then it was a weekend, I'll never forget it. It was a Sunday. We had friends down from Scotland, and the phone call rang, and every time the phone rings and they see a new number, it's a parent wanting some training. Picked it up, and it was a guy called Steve Nixon, who's Newcastle's head of recruitment, and he's up there now, alongside Dan Ashworth. And Steve spoke to me on the phone and said, we've actually had your name recommended by parents. And I was like, right, okay. And like, my head's wobbling a little bit, like, this is Newcastle United on the phone, like, wanting to recruit us for coaching, right, okay.
My heart would be racing at that point. Like.
So, do you want to come in for a chat? And I went, yeah, no problem. So I went to see them at the training ground and sat down, had an interview. And then they wanted to come back and do a practical session for about 35, 40 minutes with the I think it was the under-13s team at the time, goalkeepers. And it was a Tuesday night, and then went fairly well. And then they rang us on the Friday morning and said, we want you to come in and be a goalkeeping coach at the Academy and Development Centre. So, as to be released from the game and then come back into a coaching world and set my own business up and, for me, it was all about the ethos of coaching the basics of goalkeeping correctly. And then the lads like yourself, Lewis, who came in and who wanted to be more on a technical advanced level, then I would go to town on a more advanced stage. But, to Newcastle United, my team, my club, to come and ask for me to come and work for them, for me it was, it was to go play for Newcastle was the dream, but to go work for them and have meetings at the training ground and sit in the stadium and, host sessions with me kit on, with me initials on and things like that, it's very, very proud. But that time sadly had to come to an end because just with time and hours, and sadly my business was suffering off the back of that as well, so I had to make a decision. So Newcastle was a night, sometimes 2 nights a week on top of DMGK, but it was just a pleasure to be involved with the football club, for 2 years, and but there's still people there I know and I can pick the phone up and have a conversation with them, so it's but no, the coaching world's been really good to me, and but you get out of it what you put into it as well.
If you ever had the opportunity, would you ever go back into coaching?
I'll tell you something, what happened actually, this was 2014, I joined Newcastle, and in 2015 in the summer, I put my notice in to leave the business I was at the time in my full-time job in the construction industry, so they put me on gardening leave, so I was happy days, sun's out, go play golf for a month, happy days, but I was bored out my skull. So I rang the club and said, can I come in and do some sessions during the day? Not with the first team, But they said, you can come and train the under 23s and the under 18s team. I went, fantastic, great. So I helped out with, service and doing drills and all that, and it was amazing. Got lunch at the training ground and sat down with the players, and it was fantastic. Anyway, done 3 weeks of it there. Was going in 3 days a week. And I got approached, and they asked me, listen, I know you're moving jobs, but would you consider a full-time position?
Yeah.
And I was like, right, okay. And I was like, I was moving for a great job where I was moving to, on really good salary. And Newcastle said, well, 70 hours a week, be training, scouting, meetings, paperwork. The job salary was 11 grand a year less than what I was going for to my new job. And I went, this was under the Ashley era. And I said, I love this football club with all my heart. Cut me in half on black and white.
Yeah.
But for 11 grand a year less, sorry, thanks, but no thanks.
I think it'd be a different situation right now.
I think it definitely would be. I think with what's happened with the takeover, it's very obvious. The investments come in, the recruitment's been done, the salaries have been pulled up to the level. I knew lads at that football club before the takeover with their tracksuits on, with their initials on, cut them in half, they're black and white like me, but they weren't making ends meet with their, their bottom line with money. But I think the club's certainly done that now. They've pulled it up. If the club knocked on my door now to go back into coaching, you never know. Never say never.
Never say never.
I think someone needs to give you a quick ring, I think.
100%.
See what Amanda's got lined up. You never know.
Yeah, I know. But obviously, I spent time with you at DMGK and you became so well credited with all clubs around the place. And one who's been rather successful out of your academy is Brad Young. Mm-hmm. What's your thoughts on him and how well he's doing at the minute?
Do you know, for Brad, because I think you might remember, Lewis, but Brad came to our sessions when he was relatively young, I would say maybe about 11, 12 years old. And he certainly wasn't in the athletic shape then that he's in now. And I was training Brad for a couple of years at my sessions, and then his dad wanted to commit to more 3-4 nights a week, which I simply couldn't do. But Brad went on to another tremendous coach in Chris Errington in the northeast area. And, to say Brad's been to my sessions and sort of started his early journey with his development, and then went on to Chris. Just so pleased for the lad. Lovely family as well, come from wonderful parents. Yeah. And he seems like he's got the right attitude. I see his posts now and again on Instagram, and he always responds to a like or anything like that. So he's very grounded, very level-headed. But I think he's got a tremendous career in the game, and seeing he's had a little loan spell at Notts County, I think he's been at. So that's me 1% club. Really, I think I've probably coached 200, 300 goalkeepers in my career. Yeah. But for one of them to go and make it at that level, Leicester City Premier League club. Obviously he's had England representation as well. So it's. It's a feather in the cap to have someone like that, but at the end of the day, that's all down to Brad. And I'll go back to the point I said earlier: when the kid's got the right attitude, that makes the coach's job very, very easy. To do the work. So it's all down to the goalkeeper.
Yeah, because obviously academies around to Hartlepool Academy, Sunderland, Darlington would always come. If any of them were looking for a goalkeeper, the first point was for you, wasn't it?
At the time when I set it up, because I was still quite young myself. I was 24, 25. Yeah. I was still playing the game. So I think where I made my sessions quite clinical was demonstrations. I think when you demo to younger goalkeepers, like I watching Given at St James's Park, you capture the imagination. And because I was still fit and playing and, relatively sharp in my own game, the sessions were delivered with them demos very, very clinically. And again, it was all about the basics. So remember Tyler Jones? Tyler's another one from Easington Colliery, still at Newcastle now. I laid eyes on him on my first session, 6 years old kid, and he came into a session. Some kids in the first session at 6 years old couldn't catch a cold. Now Tyler comes in, volley down his throat, bang, and that's when I went, that kid's got something. You just know as soon as you see. And I think he's 15 now, might be even 16. I might be quoted correctly on that. But he's still at Newcastle now. But
Newcastle Academy?
He's at Newcastle Academy now, wow. But I put Tyler in there at the development centre when I was there. Yeah. Because I think he was a year and a half with me. And I was like, I didn't want to put him in straight away, too early. Get that work in for about a year and a half, and then approach the conversation with the parent. Because the worst thing you can do is get a parent excited. That's what you've got to manage their expectations as well as the kid. So I had to just cook that one very slowly, and then when I knew Tyler was ready to come in the environment, approach, bang, in he came. And Newcastle have had him since he was 7.
Yeah. You can tell he's very switched on with his nurturing, because that's exactly what Craig was like in terms of managing expectations from parents.
Yeah.
He's the head of academy, and he's just like, you'd always, whenever he'd let a person go or let a kid go, you'd always let the 2 days, let the parents, let the information sink in, and then bring them into the meeting.
Yeah.
And then tell them, look, yes, he's getting let go from this club, but we've already got 6 or 7 clubs that already want him, and we'll snatch him up before he's even finished his contract here.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's the signs of a good coach, and making sure you nurture them properly.
It's very important. It's huge. And at the time, Newcastle, this is where their downfall was, in my opinion, because what happened was, when I was doing the development centre, so you have the development centre and academy. So beyond development centre is the grassroots and where the kids are coming through. So it could be a scout that's seen them on a Sunday. It could be me coming from my centre, etc. Now, what would happen was, let's say Tommy Smith's been watched on Sunday morning by a scout, and the recommendation's going to go bring him in a trial. So the club's obligated for the first 6 weeks of that trial for that kid to come to the sessions. They can't release him before 6 weeks. Now, where the missing link was from the scout was asking the goalkeeping coach my opinion on this goalkeeper. Can I go watch the kid? Now, they would send the goalkeeper an invite to come into the session with me. And on first session, you've got not just the parent and child, you've got next door neighbours, nana and granddad, aunties and uncles, cousins, 5 mates from school, all coming to this session because it's a massive deal. Yeah. They've had a letter through the door from Newcastle United, letterhead, Newcastle logo on the top, and it's a huge deal for this 7-year-old's parents. And then every Tom, Dick and Harry's at the session, and I'm going, I haven't seen this kid yet.
Yeah.
And more times than not, the kids that were coming on the first session were nowhere near what we were looking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew from session 1 that kid was getting binned after 6 weeks. So that was difficult for me, but we were also letting down the expectation of the family.
That's where that'd be a great role, and that might be a role that you could go take in Newcastle, being that sort of spearhead of
academy.
It's what I was saying was, what we need a goalkeeping pair of eyes watching games, because with all due respect to some of the scouts at the time, there were guys in their 60s, late 70s looking for a midfield player or a centre forward, and then they'd see the goalie make a canny save and go, oh, is it under 11s game? Oh, we need a keeper under 11s, bring him in for a trial.
Yeah.
And what's his starting position like? Can he pass a ball? Boom. I've got a list of criteria that we need to achieve before you can even set foot into one of my sessions. And all these kids, they were set up to fail.
Might have even seen a clean sheet, and he might just went, he kept a clean sheet, we'll whack him in there.
It's knowledge of a goalkeeper, isn't it?
It's a different eye to an outfield eye, completely. So we all know an outfield player when you see one, but goalkeeping's very different. If you've played the game, studied it for a long time, managed expectations of yourself as a player and a coach. So there's a lot of key attributes into spotting a goalkeeper.
I don't know whether it was just age, but in terms of watching football, as I've got older, and to be fair, as I've started doing this, you see the game a lot differently in terms of, they haven't scored yet. And now I'm just like, we've kept a clean sheet. Our passing was incredibly good. People go, Bruno's had a bad game there, but no, you need to look into it and be like, the amount of times that he's took the ball off of Dan Burn, took 6 players out of the game from one pass, and then start an amount of attack. It's that building the fundamentals that really, really exceeds a football team. And I think it's with getting older and probably just doing this is where I've seen it.
Yeah. And that key word you're looking for is experience.
Yeah.
That's what comes with knowledge. Keep going, practice, watching games. Like, you learn so much more by even talking about the game as well. Yeah. Getting someone else's opinion, watching a session, looking at feedback, watching different types of games abroad. So look where our manager, Eddie Howe, he took 1.5 years out of the game and he travelled the world going to watch other sessions, different sports, different leadership. And you learn so much from that. And Newcastle has seen the benefit of that because he was ridiculed before he even managed a match. The TalkSport pundits, you name any pundit, Eddie Howe, and look what's happened.
See, my thing, I always have an opinion on modern day managers is, I had this opinion about Graham Potter and Eddie Howe before. Obviously, Graham Potter's tough time with Chelsea recently, is that everyone always seems to try and hire the ex-pro Gerrard, Lampard hasn't worked out. Whereas Graham Potter was at
Sweden.
Sweden, coaching, learning the trade, getting his badges. Eddie Howe, Simasori, nailing down those coaching. Whereas these ex-pros just get the coaching license whilst they're still playing because they think because I've been an incredible footballer, I can be an incredible coach. But these guys who dedicate 10 years of their lives on nailing down the craft of a coach don't tend to get that big of a look in. So it's nice to see Graham Potter getting a Chelsea job, Eddie Howe doing well at Newcastle.
I feel like with the Lampard one, it's like he's managed under Mourinho, so he thinks he can manage. And then I think Steven Gerrard's got more potential though. He didn't go straight in for the Liverpool job. He didn't he went to Rangers, he built himself up, he stayed there for a year, and he'd done an incredible job at Rangers. Maybe he's not so much Aston Villa. The time that he came in initially, it was quite good, but then that's the honeymoon period that we always talk about. I think there's more ability for a manager in Gerrard, but Lampard, I don't see anything at all. I just don't see any actual managerial sort of prowess in Lampard.
I think you get in coaching and any form of life and employment and career that you're striving for, you get out of it what you put into it. And I think looking at the likes, you can go further. You can go Klopp, not a great player. Ten Hag, not a great player. Obviously Howe, Potter. There's a lot of managers in the Premier League.
Wasn't even that incredible as well, if I'm just genuinely honest.
Exactly. Mourinho wasn't. I mean, they're both at Barcelona together, but they weren't like...
incredible.
Yeah.
They weren't legends of the game.
Yeah.
Like, you see these Lampards. I mean, I'm glad Scholes has never got into management because...
So I've tried it. We love Alan Shearer to death, but never a manager.
Yeah, I mean, he was never a manager.
No.
I mean, on Paul Scholes, actually, I know we've talked about him before, but if he's anything like he is at punditry, have you seen his punditry?
Scalzi.
Yeah.
It's just
laughable.
He's so funny, man.
It was that one where it was the Europa League one with him and Ferdinand. It felt like a level 2 sport presentation. It was like there was the board in between them. It was just like, and on this one you see it was good defending, just like you, Rio Ferdinand. Over to you, Rio.
That was a good pass. No. But like obviously with Mikel Arteta, that ex-pro, and he's doing so well, he learned his craft by being a number 2. And I mean John Terry has been was at number 2 at Villa for a while, and now he's at Chelsea. And see John Terry becoming a very good manager in the future because he's taking his time with it. And my opinion with Gerrard right now is I think he should go into Liverpool as a coach. Completely
Liverpool, just go
go anywhere,
somewhere.
but take yourself out the limelight of being the manager and go learn a trade from another world-class coach, because Arteta grew under Guardiola.
Have you seen how many... we're talking about people that have grew under Guardiola. Company, Arteta, Ten Hag, all at the top of the league. Xavi, all at the top of the league right now.
Yeah.
I think the job for me, I think you've got to have some really good emotional intelligence with players, and because this is their day-to-day life. You're with them, you're traveling with them, you're in hotels with them, you're obviously training with them, you're playing games. And it's, you've got to have that awareness as a manager. And I think, for me, looking at the body language of Gerrard, even in his interviews, and Lampard and people like that, I think there's just an element of, well, I was a great player. And I just think the players who haven't had that fantastic playing career have had to earn their stripes as a coach. And I think when you come in with that sort of unknown background as a player, players look at you and think, I've got to actually prove more to you, because I don't know a lot about you. So it's a bit of a clean slate for both parties there. I think when you've got a Gerrard who's had this unbelievable playing career, some players might be a bit intimidated by that.
Yeah,
I think
it could go the other way.
I mean, a lot of players were signing for Villa in the summer because of Gerrard. I know Leon Bailey in his interview, he said like, Gerrard's a coach, so why wouldn't I want to come
I know
here?
this is completely off topic. Well, it kind of is on topic, but there was a TikTok from Aston Villa. I remember seeing it. It was just like the players walking out from the thing on at the training ground, like, who's the best player? Who's the best player? And they're all saying Gerrard. Well, Gerrard obviously wasn't the best player in the world, but they're all saying Gerrard because he's his manager.
Trying to get in the starting lineup.
Exactly.
I think go back to the Arteta thing you mentioned as well, because I think we must have all watched the Amazon documentary.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
And do you know what? I was like that about Arteta beforehand, and even though they blew up at St James's that night when we turned them over, and you know, he had his balance of emotional intelligence and, you know, empathy and compassion with the players. But when you need to step up to the ante and give him a good kicking, you know, he had that balance for me.
Yeah.
And you can see why that they're doing so well. But they've tuned into that ethos, and all thoses young players that he's brought in, and the Sakas and the Martinellis who are flying and playing out of their skin. There's a bloody good chance they'll go and win that league this year.
I think it's a tribute to Arteta though. He was saying, I think it was at the start of the documentary, it was just like, it was a picture of a rabbit and a duck that was all melted and one. It was like, it doesn't matter what you see, it's just as long as you all see the same thing and head in the same direction. And that's the...
I think that's something that's benefiting Arteta, is because he's such a young coach and he only came out of the game, 6 years ago?
Yeah,
he retired from his playing career. Is that he understands that psychological side of the game that you keep bringing up as well. It's all about the mentality of 100%. Players.
I think for me, the one that stuck for me was the Tottenham derby, and I think they lost the first 3 games of the season, and he pulled the cameraman in for the last 5 minutes before they went out on the pitch, and was like, "This man's going to tell you what it means to this football club," and like he was like. The passion and like his voice, you could hear the emotion, and they were 3-0 up at half time. And like Arteta said nothing. And there was, what I liked about his team talks was it was the last thing that was said before they went out and played. They were all on their feet, and there was an inspirational message, or it's nothing about tactics, or you know, keep it quiet first 10 minutes, lads, or nothing like that. It was purely like,
this is my club.
The skin's tingling on your arms, you know. So very clever management.
He was almost crying. That cameraman was almost crying.
Yeah, I think he was crying. Yeah. I love any documentary that's behind the scenes at a football club. There's one out now that I haven't watched. It's the Barcelona one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, to watch that. I forgot what they called it.
One. I love the City one.
But they've started from when Xavi took over, and obviously. And then Laporta coming back into the club and Bartomeu, and it's all that. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
I'll have to tune into that as well. That looks good, that.
Yeah, because a lot has happened with Barcelona in the past.
It has, and I just they were the giant, the greats of world football, and then they've just gone through this turmoil. And Messi leaves on a free transfer and goes to PSG, which was, you just thought he was there forever, and then like this capitulated football club, it just goes up in flames.
I mean,
so they're just not what they used to be, but I think they'll get back in time.
I think they are starting to kind of get back into it with Xavi being the coach.
With that Super Cup final.
Super
Cup final. Yeah, it was.
I watched that game. I don't know if you watched it.
I didn't see that one.
Real Madrid, Barcelona.
I didn't watch it, but he was just like, watch the highlights, because honestly, genuinely, oh my god.
Barcelona, it was like a training ground. They walked all over Real Madrid for 90 minutes of a football match. For 90 minutes, Real Madrid did not have a sniff. Wow. Pedri and Gavi were just having a field day.
Who's top of the league over there?
Barcelona.
And they're bossing it, are they?
Yeah. I tell you what, do you know why I know Real Madrid aren't doing well? Because I've put Accas on for the past 3 weeks. And Real Madrid, I've had to win in my Accas for the past 3 weeks, and I haven't won a game for the past 3 weeks.
So it's your fault.
Well, you know what? If Barca should pay tribute to me, because I've got them in my ACCA. Every single time I've had Real Madrid in my ACCA, they have not gone on to win a game.
Yeah. No, it is good to see Barcelona starting to play good football again, because I've always been a Barcelona boy.
Same, yeah.
It's always that thing as a kid, are you Barcelona or Real Madrid?
I was Barcelona.
Oh, thank the Lord. Three Messi Barca fans.
Well, that's a question that we ask everyone: is Messi or Ronaldo?
Messi.
Oh, thank the Lord.
Every day of the week.
Yeah. Why?
Wait, is that 3-0?
I just think the whole Ronaldo thing, you know, they've been neck and neck all their careers, and then it's come to the final hurdle. One's won the World Cup, and one ended up in Saudi Arabia via Piers Morgan. So, do you know what I mean? Like, I think if you've got a legacy with a football club like you have with Man United, like, and they gave him that pedestal, that platform, that father figure in Ferguson.
Yeah.
And then to just do what he did, if there's not an ounce of regret in his body, then there's something wrong with him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, he's gone to Saudi Arabia. Who am I to say? Newcastle's been bought from Saudi Arabian money. But at the end of the day, like, if you're a player, you've got a choice. And he could have gone to America. He could have gone to another Premier League side. But it just doesn't look good, man.
To me, my point that I'm making is, fair enough, finish your career in whatever way that you want to. Because, you know, Iniesta went to Japan, Xavi went to Qatar, you know. go wherever you want. My issue with Ronaldo going to Saudi is he's slated everyone for going elsewhere. He slated Xavi for going out Iniesta going to Japan, and when he did the Piers Morgan interview, he was just like, I want to finish my career at the top. 6 weeks later, he's signing a multi-100 million pound contract.
He said he doesn't need the money. He said he doesn't need the money, and I would never go to somewhere like Saudi Arabia. Specifically in that interview, he said Saudi Arabia, and then literally a couple of weeks later, after he has an absolute rotten World Cup.
I think he just needs to accept that he's finished.
Yeah.
And he can't. He's a big man-child, in my opinion.
I saw someone say this, and I completely agree with this fact. I think the thing that hurt Ronaldo the most wasn't getting benched by Man U or Portugal, was when Real Madrid won the Champions League last season, because in 2018 when they won the Champions League, he held up the only player to win 5 Champions Leagues. And then what happened last season? Marcelo, Benzema, Modric, all these players doing that, and because he definitely didn't think the Real Madrid could win a Champions League without him, and they went and did it, and
in pretty spectacular fashion as well, because it was a lot of last minute goals from Benzema to get them through.
I mean, let's be honest, we should have won that Champions League final against Real Madrid.
Chances.
Courtois in net.
That was the best goalkeeping performance I think I've seen. I'm 35.
That
was the best I've ever seen.
Yeah,
without a doubt.
Who was your goalkeeping idol? And so was it Shea Given or was it?
Given was the number one, and I think after that, I mean, the obvious ones, Schmeichel, that came from that era as well. Watching him growing up, I still remember the '96 match against Man United, 1-0. We got beat. Cantona scores at the Gallagher end, and he was to kept out 5-6 in the first half, and it was just ridiculous. One goalkeeper who I thought was finished a couple of years ago was Neuer. Yeah. And Neuer for Bayern was just, they won the Champions League. I think it was the COVID season. Yeah. And I think it was semi-final, and he was absolutely unbelievable.
It was the final against PSG.
Yeah.
PSG waltzed Bayern Munich in that final.
Yeah.
And they only stayed in it because of Neuer.
I said a few weeks ago when we made a video, I said, for me personally, Neuer is the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he was the spearhead for me in terms of goalkeeper playing at the feet.
Yeah.
Who's yours best goalkeeper of all time?
All time?
Yeah.
Ooh, good question. I've never actually
given it a thought.
Given it a thought, actually, because I've just been so focused on giving, I suppose. All time. That's a good one, that.
Because I've got mine, but mine comes from
See if I can come to it by the end of this podcast.
Yeah, but mine personally, because I idolised growing up as a goalkeeper, was Iker Casillas.
Mm-hmm.
He's mine.
He was unbelievable.
He was incredible, and the way his career ended at Real Madrid was horrible.
It's so sour.
But you mentioned, when you were playing at similar sort of age as a kid, you didn't have YouTube to watch before games to set yourself up. The way I used to prepare for goalkeeping games was I'd watch Iker Casillas before every single game. Iker Casillas, I'd watch a video compilation. It was the same video compilation every game, and I'd watch that before I'd play.
I've got a question for you, actually.
Go on.
What was your, I would say, probably the best moments you would take away from the sessions I put on? Because I've actually never asked anybody that before.
Ooh.
But what was the feelings you used to come away and you're like, oh, that was good, or that was crap, or anything?
Every session.
I've got a few coming to mind now. One, I remember one drill. You used to feel embarrassed when you had to do this drill, mind you, but tell you what, it helped absolute wonders. Massive one for you. You always mentioned with footwork.
Yeah.
As a goalkeeper.
Yeah.
You used to do a drill where you would hold hands.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
And you would run side to side.
Yeah.
Side to side in front of everyone.
Yeah.
If we're doing a drill and you wanted us to come out and use our feet, and you would hear heels clap together, you're like, stop.
Yeah.
Come here. And you'll be running around the pitch holding hands.
Yeah.
That's one. That's it with me. That helped me massively. Another one would be, you mentioned demos, and obviously you were a young goalkeeper coach, so you were physically fit enough to do your demos to the best point. Is always seeing how explosive you were as a goalkeeper in your demos. So obviously you always see goalkeepers do little kicks and catch down the throat, when you would get one of the older guys, so like an Ethan or someone back in the time, who could hammer a ball down your throat, how you would explode, catch it, and then give it back, and setting that standard from the off. Those are a couple ones that sprung to my mind. What else have we got? I always remember first like distribution sessions as well. They were one, because you would always think with goalkeepers it's all just shooting stuff, but I remember first sort of distribution ones. I remember my first ever session on kicking. I was just like, I'm packing in now. Jesus, I cannot kick a ball to save my life.
Brutal.
What is this? I was just like, do I have to do this? All right, okay. And then I started to grasp it over time.
Yeah. It's interesting about the demos one, because like again, watching the Givens and going to the ground and watching them, and that was inspiring.
Yeah.
For me, I'll never forget that feeling. And I was like, right, if I'm going to do a drill here, I want you to be, wow. Like, see how hard that ball was hit, and like how quickly he got down to make a save or anything like that. Or it's even do you know what gets me really excited? It sounds really sad, this, but that noise when you're behind the keeper and it's the gloves. And it's you know what I mean? Any goalkeeper watching this podcast will agree with that, because it's such a sexy noise.
Yeah, my dad will probably agree with that, because he was a keeper when
There you go.
I know one thing, because I think I was with you for about 5-6 years, I think. And obviously we were all young kids when we started, but we all started growing up together, and we all used to be best of mates coming down on a Friday night. But as soon as we went into, us striking the balls for one of the keepers to save, I remember one kid with it, Smithy. He was similar age of me, maybe a year group above.
Yeah.
We used to hammer the balls at each other, because we wanted to sit the ball against each other. Like the 50-50 game. Yeah. The goalkeeping 50-50 game is smash a shot, save a shot, smash a shot.
Goalie walls.
Goalie walls, We used to have them.
I love listening to this.
It's great, man.
We used to smash them, because it was kind of a thing that we wanted to embarrass the other one by scoring.
Yeah.
But then you would see the saves that we would pull off, and they were just like, how did you do that? It was just like, because he is not scoring against me. Sort of thing. But
it's when I'm stood back watching that as the coach, and all I'm thinking about is, are they having fun? Are they having a good time? And I'm all about wanting to develop the kids, and we get that time in the sessions. It's brilliant when you have that development. But for me, the fundamental was, are they having a good time?
Yeah.
And they having fun? So, I've gone to some sessions, and when I remember as a young one, and I'm like, this is hard work.
Yeah.
But the coach, it's all what you get out of the session, what you put into it, and the enthusiasm, how you deliver, how you communicate. And that's where you're going to get the best response out of a player. It's at any level, if it's under sixes or first team level in the Premier League. It's all about the reaction from a coach, how you deliver a session. And you can see that with the Artetas, where Arsenal are, Eddie Howe in Newcastle, etc., etc. The clubs that aren't doing so great, Lampard, God bless him, he ain't getting a response out of them Everton players, and it's cost him his job.
Yeah.
So, on your coaching career, talking about that, how hard was it for you to hang up those gloves as a goalkeeper coach? I think that final decision.
Well, I've been in coaching for give or take nearly 11 years, and in the end, it was actually fairly straightforward. For me personally, I could sit here and sob my heart out, and it was hard, but I think just my life had changed, and I'm one of these people where I am sometimes looking for the next thing. In my life, whether it's another hobby or it's something doing different, but the game had given so much to me, and I think we went through COVID as well and got out the other side of that, and I just had a moment to reflect, and obviously business career as well, that's gone into a different atmosphere as well, so I just had to look after my family as well, and I'm a parent now, and wanting to look after my family at the same time, so I wanted to give some time for me as well, so. But listen, the game's been so good to me, and it's set up who I am as a human being. I think coaching has brought me on massively as an individual over the last 10 years of my life, and I think the big rewarding thing is literally watching the human in front of you develop, not just as a goalkeeper technically, but as a human as well. It's the whole, it's not just company sessions, bye-bye, see you later on. It's the having the interaction with another human being and watching them grow up as like Lewis has in front of us today. And fantastic to see you doing what you do with the podcast, and I was honoured to be asked to come on as a guest, so thanks for having us on.
Just think about one more that you just touched on there about, talking to them is, I think one of my fondest memories of being in the academy was when we finished a session on a Friday night down at Seaton Carew, and you pulled us to the side saying that I think it was Hartlepool Academy wanted a goalkeeper, and you set me and I think it was Brad set us up for scouts at the time, and you pulled me, and it was me. My dad and granddad used to come down at every session. Pulled us over to the side and said that. I always remember that. And then unfortunately that when the scout came to watch us, so I used to always play. My football was always 2 years above. And the day that the scout came to watch us, my manager at the time benched us.
That's got to be tough.
Killer.
Benched us for a goalkeeper who was taller than us because of the age group difference. So I was just like, my dad was fuming. He was just like, he's literally got a scout up there watching, and he sat on the bench. But I always remember that, getting pulled to the side saying, you've got a scout coming to watch you.
We don't normally ask each other a lot of questions. If we do, it's normally on what's happening in the world of football. What was that like then? What you were about to get scouted, and he's been scouted as well. I've asked him a lot of questions to do how he felt when he got scouted. What was that feeling like when you got scouted? And what was your mindset when you got benched as well?
It was demoralising when I got benched. It was heartbreaking. Because like I say, I've always played up ages. But I'm not now, but I was always a small kid.
Imagine if you were that height now.
Like I say, I'm not now, but I remember when I used to play five-a-side, I used to play a couple of years above, and someone smashed a shot and I broke a finger doing that. But I got rejected by Sunderland for being small as a kid. But no, it was heartbreaking when I got dropped for that game. I was just like, I can see the guy in his nice long Parker jacket, and I'm like, I should be on this pitch here. But that initial feeling of getting scouted, I was just like, when you were talking to us, I looked at you, I was just like, I was just like, okay, wow, this is amazing. It was that feeling. I was just like, I can't wait for the game at the weekend now.
And in a nutshell, the game does deliver its highs and lows. In a nutshell, like I've talked about getting signed and but getting released was probably the biggest wrench of my life. So I was 17 years old. It was a Wednesday morning. Prior to this Wednesday morning, it was about 3 weeks before, so it was the January time. I was in the second year of my contract as a YTS. I was out on loan in the Northern League, Billingham Towns, and getting games under my belt, but I wasn't playing in the youth team. And kind of half expected it, but January came and look, sat us down, we're not going to renew your third year. So I was getting released at the end of the season. But I was prepared for that. And said, look, but keep training, keep fit, keep coming in, you'll get paid and keep playing your Northern League games, and, we'll try and find you another club. And I went, look, fair enough. So on the Wednesday morning in question 2 weeks later, it was about 9 o'clock. I was about to go out with the goalkeepers and got all the gear out, ready to go. And it was a guy called Mark Proctor, the assistant manager, who shouted us in, Dan, have you got a minute? And didn't know what it was about. Sounded quite heavy. So I sat down, and it was the manager, goalkeeping coach, youth team manager, and Proc. And never forget the words till the day I die. And he said, do you think you're being a bit pig-headed, son? I said, what are you talking about? I said, well, we told you we don't need you no more, so why'd you keep coming into training? I said, well, you said. I said, well, we think you're wasting your time in football and you should pursue another career option. So I was 17, and I was like my world just fell apart on the spot there and then. Thought I could put my head back on, go out and train, completely fell off. Just passed my test a few months before, got my little Ford car, drove back to Peterlee, literally 9:30 in the morning. My dad's like, what are you doing here? Told him what happened, and I'm going to go up there and do this. And I'm, Dad, you can't do nothing, mate. Like, I'm under contract. But I didn't want to put gloves on ever again on that day. And went working with my dad with his domestic appliance business and going to people's houses, and I just thought, that's it, I'm done. And it was in the summer, and my dad was like, you should be still playing, like, you're wasted. So I went off and had trials in Northern League sides, and then you strip yourself back to the brick.
Yeah.
And you've got to start again and build your life. And so the knocks happen in your football world, but you can bounce back.
Yeah.
And, brought myself back and built a life, built a career, and got into coaching, and that was really rewarding. And so there is life after getting released from professional football.
How was the standard at Northern League then? You played, was it Newton Aycliffe you were?
Yeah, I've had a few clubs. I've Aycliffe, Eschwinning, South Shields, Dunstan Fed. So all first division, so second division Northern League sides, and it's a good standard of football. It's highly underrated in my opinion.
Yeah.
I think playing every week and having a coach, and yes, it's not third division football league, professional, but going to a club where you felt wanted, you felt loved, you could go and express yourself and be the goalkeeper that you know you can be, and Northern League's a big thank you for me, really, because I was able to rebuild my life and my personality, my confidence again, and show what a good goalkeeper that I was. And played in sides, won cups, and got promoted, and things like that. So the Northern League standard, it's a good standard of football. Lads have slipped through the net and ended up there from Premier League sides or Championship, First Division. So it's a good standard of football.
I mean, Jeff and Craig both said that.
Yeah, the Northern League is.
It's like underrated because Jeff obviously had to go through the Northern League to get up to where he is refereeing. He said it's a good standard of football.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously Craig had to go through there. He was a Blythe as well. He said it's a good standard of football.
But I think that's a thing that you just mentioned. It is everyone who unfortunately didn't get those, renewals and, those professional contracts, still hell of a good players.
Yeah.
But those contracts tend to be given the under 23s need a centre mid. You don't play centre mid, so you're going to have to go.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean that you're a bad player, and they're all kind of slipped to those national leagues, northern, southern leagues sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a good standard.
It is.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of lads around here, like they make a good little sort of side earning off it as well. To some clubs out there paying some bloody good money.
Yeah.
At that level of football, but there's some lads that have slipped through the net. From some of the top sides, and other lads who actually go the other way, like get scouted and picked up and going into Championship sides, or dare I say it, into some even Scottish League, Premier League. So there's just some lads on there. I think the difference is obviously the fitness, because you're not training every day of the week at Northern League standard, or like a Spennymoor or a Mask United. Obviously they've gone on to a different level now as well. So I think just having that exposure, and if you get a good FA Vase draw or an FA Cup draw and you go play a good side, then there's an opportunity that somebody goes, there's a player there, like we can go get him, and then both off you go. Yeah. So it's fine margins, very, very fine margins.
He's like Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, went from Fleetwood.
Yeah, straight up.
Yeah,
did. But here's a question that you never think you'd ever ask a goalkeeper: what's the best goal you've ever scored? Now you mentioned the FA Cup.
Well, interesting you mentioned that. I've actually scored a goal in the FA Cup for Newton Aycliffe. You might have done some Googling actually.
I have, yeah, don't worry. I have.
So it was Dalek Nare away. They were league below us, and we were expected to win the FA Cup tie against them. But it was a back pass, and I was on the edge of the D. So when you get a lovely one when it's just rolling back to you and you bang, sweet. And I was sweet on the laces. And the keeper's starting position was rotten, I will say. And bounced on the 18-yard line, and he was pretty much between penalty spot and 6-yard line. I was thinking, if that bounces, it's in. And then on its way into the net. And it was just one of those things. And all the lads come and jump.
I was going to say, what was the celebration like?
And that was just a pylon, basically, for me. That's all it was. That's all I can remember. But yeah, just totally unexpected. But
that Tim Howard one.
I totally forgot about that till you mentioned it, actually. Yeah. So...
Yeah, I'd take that to the grave, mate.
It's definitely. It's got on my gravestone, that one.
Do you know what I'm taking the grave is that halfway line goal when we're at the.
Oh my god!
I'm taking that to my grave. Scored a halfway line goal. I've never let it down. I've never let it down.
Yeah.
And then I attempted that like 60 times after that as well.
Yeah, we were you scored that goal. We all went nuts at you for scoring that goal. And then every game for the rest of the season after that, you tried to ping one in from the halfway line. And I was
never went
effing and blinding at you every single time that you did that, because I was just like, it's happened once, leave it now.
We were talking about Hartlepool before. I've never had a good reputation at Hartlepool.
Oh no, you haven't had it. what have you had any experiences on the pitch where players have completely lost their heads? Like completely and utterly at a referee, at an opposing coach.
Yeah. One that springs to mind actually. I was trying to scramble my brains there, but I remember playing for Eshwin in the Northern League, and we were playing against Horden. Would you believe it?
Yeah.
And we were at home, and Kev Devine, God bless him, there was a Red Bull moment, and one of our centre midfield players didn't know who he was. Gave him a load of abuse, and then it was literally just a bump on the pitch. So yeah, referee had to obviously deal with that pretty quickly. Red comes out, off you go, mate. It does happen on the pitch.
Yeah,
certainly at Northern League level.
Certainly at college level as well.
Yeah, you've done that. I mean,
it was our big derby against Hartlepool, because like there was obviously the two colleges.
Yeah.
Because you used to, we're gonna go to Hartlepool.
Yeah.
we were against them, and then oh god, I just lost my head completely, like instantly like that, because they were just like hacking at us for the first like 25 minutes of the game, breaking my ankles. And there was this one time where he just straight in took my ankles out. Referee did nothing, didn't even get the ball, and I stood back up and I screamed in the referee's face, "You're an absolute effing cheat! Get the F off this pitch," and stuff like that. And then he just pulled red
straight out. Off you go, son.
Yeah. Wasn't
man with the power.
Still won that game as well. We won. I swear to God, we won that game.
Yeah, no, because this is what I'm going to mention now as well. I've completely forgot about this until this, because whatever brings up about that game is always you getting sent off. But that was one of the first games at the college, and for reasons beforehand, I hadn't put on a pair of gloves, goalkeeping gloves, in about 3 years.
Rusty.
I remember this.
Because of bad coaching and being knocked down a few pegs by coaches. And anyway, we got to the game, and we're like our goalkeeper isn't here. I was just like, my time's here. I'll
SOS call.
Because he was driving to the game, wasn't he?
He was supposed to come but didn't turn up. I was just like, alright, well, it's time for me to put these gloves back on and have a game.
What a game it was.
I won man of the match in that game.
No way.
Yeah.
The game
came in good somewhere, mate, didn't I?
And this will make you feel very good about yourself. My mum posted it on Facebook.
No way.
My mum posted it on Facebook about it, and you commented on it.
Did I?
Yeah, you commented on it. It literally just came to my head now. Amazing. You talk about the effect that you always have on players, and being close with the families and stuff like that. My mum mentioned it on Facebook. I can't remember the scoreline of that game.
We won 2-1.
Was it 2-1? Yeah,
we won
2-1. And
because we're 1-0 up, I got sent off, and then they pulled it back, and then we scored a late goal.
Yeah, I pulled it off. I don't know how many saves. My mum posted the man of the match on Facebook, and you commented saying like, "You never lose it, this, that, and the other," sort of thing.
I remember that game.
That's something I'll always remember as well.
Happy days, man.
Yeah.
I've just thought of something to ask you here then. So, what's the save? Because I've got one.
Yeah.
What's the save that you'll never forget? And there's a mix of reasons why as well. You'll always remember a save.
While he thinks, what's your save?
My save was, we were playing Bridlington Town in the FA Cup for Eshwin, and it went to 2 legs. We drew the first game 1-1 at their place. Tipped one onto the bar there, and I was in a real good patch of form at this point at Esh. It was 23, 24. And it was extra time. I'd saved 2 penalties in normal time. And it was extra time, and it was a corner, and down the bank, and it was 6-yard box, and it was a corner in, flicked down like penalty spot, and lads free turned on the volley, like spun around, and it's going in, and I made the save behind me, and I like flicked it over the bar. Oh. It's in the net, and I'll never forget the lad who's hit us. He was like, they were like 2 leagues above us, and he come over and he just said genius, in my face, and I knew it's a good one. Like, that feeling as a keeper. But like, for him to come over and say that, and I was like, that must have been a good one. And then it went to penalties. I even took the first penalty to stick it in the top corner. Like, that's how confident I was on the night.
Yeah.
But we crumbled, we lost, and then they wanted to sign me after that game.
Did they?
But they wouldn't sell us.
Wow.
So like, and again, this short ass keeper for us, but just positional sense and having the right moments in the right game.
It's that confidence. It comes back to it again. It's that mindset.
Yeah.
It's that mindset. if you're in a dull mindset, you're just going, oh, I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
But because you're hyped up, you've got this absolute buzz around you, you're like, I'm going for it.
Yeah, yeah.
You fling your arm back.
Yeah.
It's behind you. It's gone.
Yeah.
You're not expecting to save. But because you got that mindset, you're going for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Those camera shot saves are the best, aren't they?
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Match of the day saves.
Yeah, they're spot on.
So what was your save? Have you got one?
Mine, yeah.
In that game?
I've got mine. No, it's not in that game. It's a different one. So it was in a cup game, because I think it was quarterfinals of a cup. We used to have, they were nowhere near us in terms of geographical centre, but it was a derby match because the season beforehand we'd played them and there was some hammered tackles in, and it ended up with the game getting stopped because an ambulance had to come in for a broken leg on the pitch.
Ouch.
Anyway, we're at this game, cup game, and I think it was 0-0. There's about 20 minutes left to go. They get a penalty. And I'm like, yeah, okay. So penalty's coming in. You see goalkeepers these days going up, confronting the players, all that sort of stuff. I just stood on my line and was just staring. And the lad takes a penalty, my bottom left, dive down, save it. I'm in the bottom corner, I'm on the deck, and the ball's popped back up for him to run in for a header. I've got back up, he's headed it in the other corner. I've got round to the other corner, flicked around the post, and then we ended up winning the cup tie 1-0.
Ah, man.
So,
sweet,
yeah.
isn't it?
So that one's my best
magic
one, I
moments,
think.
man.
Yeah, that's my moment.
Do you know what I can think in that game? Not that game that you just said there, but the game before they were talking about where I got sent off. Like, I swear to God, they were through 1-on-1, and he nutmegged you, but your trailing hand, stopped it behind.
Being in that low position.
Low position, hands
low,
down.
yeah.
Hands down, ready to go
hands set
either.
low, yeah.
Hands set low, always
you
from
come out
you.
and do a Schmeichel there, that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
So, hands low.
Always from you, hands set low, body position low, so then you can either go there,
never
there,
lose it.
There, either way.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember it, and you just caught it behind the bag because I thought, there it is, there's 2-1.
Yeah.
You caught it behind, I was like, whoo.
Yeah.
Because the rest of that game, obviously, you'd been sent off, but you were rather loud on the sideline.
Oh, very. Just as loud as I was on the pitch.
Emotions running high.
Yes,
yeah, there were.
Definitely say that. I can definitely say that.
Yeah, some brilliant moments.
Brilliant moments. This has been an absolute class podcast, I've got to say.
It has.
Probably been one of the best ones. And honestly, Dan, thank you so much for coming on and taking the time out you did to come on the podcast.
No, thanks for having us. I really enjoyed it.
Incredibly busy man. Yeah. But we always ask 2 questions at the end of the podcast. You've already answered one, Messi or Ronaldo. But the other one, who is the most famous person that you know or is in your contacts?
Oh, that's a good one.
So Craig said Beardsley.
Craig said Beardsley or Pickford.
And then Jeff said Hendo.
Yeah.
Which is weirdly enough, there's some sort of full circle again. My nana and granddad babysat Henderson.
Henderson, yeah.
Which is just weird.
And Dan's currently scrolling through his
I'm
contacts.
scrolling through to see who's the most famous in there.
Is there a lot in there? And that's what we're trying to pick the right one out.
There is. I'm trying to pick.
There's the Peps. There's the the Schmeichel.
Well, because his name at the moment is quite well mentioned in media circles of the recruitment team at Newcastle, but I probably will say Steve Nixon. There you go.
Steve Nixon.
Yeah. But one final story, if there's any time at all. But when I was 15,
plenty of time.
When I was 15, really long story, but I'll try and keep it short as I can. I ended up going to Shea Given's house. Would you believe it? This is no lie. I've got this obsession with Given. Obviously, I didn't go stalking him at his bloody house. My dad got a call to fix his washing machine, and me dad's brother knew Stevie Harper really well. Sold his first house to him in Easington, and then they stayed in touch, golf games and blah blah blah. And then all of a sudden, like Given's on the scene at Castle Eden playing golf, as we do. And I used to caddy up there sometimes. So it was a Tuesday night going to train in my dad's car. He's knocking your phones on the dashboard as it used to be. And then, like, see this name, Harper, and I'm like, whoa! I'm like this, 15-year-old kid. And they're at the dressing rooms in Stamford Bridge. It was a Tuesday night, Worthington Cup tie, Chelsea, Newcastle. And Harper says, oh, Willie, somebody's washing machine's knackered. Puts him on the phone, this Irish accent, straight away, I know who it is. And it's like, oh, we're in the dressing room in Stamford Bridge. He said, when can you come up? Come tomorrow. He says, come about 10 o'clock. We'll be flying back tonight after the game. So he's in a village near the airport up at Newcastle. So I'm like, school tomorrow, bin, off you go. All my mates, grasses up with the teacher, we're doing chemistry class, exam, but I don't care. So go to the house, and get the gates, electric buzzer. It's like this big, huge barn conversion. It's absolutely stunning. And then press the button, electric gates. Like, he's still in bed, but he was like, talk about meeting your heroes and, you know, not letting you down and stuff. What an absolute top man. And my dad's in the utility room fixing the washing machine. Me and Shea Gibbons playing pool in his bar.
Really?
Oliver Kahn shirt on the wall from the World Cup. Like, shirts all around the place, and he was just absolutely class. Heard I was a goalie, so we go into the utility room, and my dad goes, oh, Shea, I don't want to scratch your tiles. Have you got like a towel I can put on like the floor? He's like, I need, boy. Opens this cupboard. Full box of Adidas Predators, like from ceiling to the bottom, and Sondico gloves this side. Like, my chin hits the floor. Gives us a pair for training, a pair for games, and another pair signed.
Wow.
So he was absolute top man.
So you got to meet your hero, and he does everything that you.
And I beat him at pool as well.
Oh, did you?
Just to top it all off.
Wow.
So just to put the cherry on the cake. But that's just ledge. So like,
is there any?
Dad had gone to heaven that day. Basically.
Is there any advice or anything that he said to you on that day that's kind of stuck in your head? From playing pool and.
I don't think he actually did. We were just like cracking on about like Newcastle and like we were just like, oh, I was a goalie at Darlington and just like, oh, like stick in, like, you know, kind of stuff. And but no, he was just absolute ledge.
It felt like a normal conversation.
Just honestly, just down to earth bloke. Like, we'd sat here today doing a podcast with you now, and he'd be cracking on like normal. Just
that's incredible.
We'll get him on.
Try to get Shea on.
Drop a message. You never know.
You can come.
I was going to say you can come in with us and come in with Shea.
Do you remember that time I beat you at pool, Shea?
No. Yeah.
I think that about wraps it up.
Yeah, we'll wrap it up on that very, very good story.
Again, thank you very much, Dan, for coming. If you enjoyed, leave a comment, leave a like, and all that type of stuff. But yeah, thank you very much for watching.